Hey everyone, and welcome to 121 in Flux. I'm Peter, that is Connor, and we talk about movies on this show. Movies from the past, sometimes way back in the past. This one's not that far. Well, I mean, depends what age you are, I suppose. The 80s to some people now feels like it's an eternity ago, but not that I was even born for the vast majority of it, but
And it's further ago than most of the stuff we've been covering recently.
that's because we've had a lot of new movies out that we've
We
felt,
have.
oh, we should do the movies that came before that in that franchise, and because of that, we've had some recentish films. But no, so we're going to be talking about a movie that, I'm actually kind of excited because this is the first one in a while that I hadn't seen before.
Hmm.
I mean, the original idea for this show was, oh, we get to have an excuse to work through the movies we've been meaning to watch, we've not seen yet. And I've went about 8 episodes, like,
Well, that's because we had all those
uh,
franchises to cover.
and they've all been rewatches. So I finally got to watch something new that I've not seen. So that's nice. So we're going to talk about Innerspace, which is a Joe Dante film from 1987. And I love Joe Dante, which is why I'd been meaning to see this for quite some time. Big fan of his movies: The Burbs, Gremlins, Howling, Small Soldiers, more recent example. But done a bunch of stuff. Explorers, actually. Explorers is a movie that I grew up with. Most people see it as a lesser version of the Goonies. Me, I'm kind of 50-50 on them, where I'm like, no, they're equals. I grew up with both. They were both side by side in my childhood.
I have no attachment.
That's because you're a horrible person with no soul, but that's okay. So, so this was sort of his last movie of like the 80s that I hadn't seen. He's done a film a few years ago called The Hole that I've not got around to yet, but this was the last film of sort of I guess I'll call it the golden era of when he was like doing all these movies throughout this time period that I hadn't seen, which is why I elected to watch this and drag Connor in kicking and screaming.
And I really didn't protest that hard.
No, but it's more dramatic. All right, I'm trying to.
Yeah, I just want to be clear because some of them I might protest, and this one I didn't.
So we'll start spoiler free as we typically do, and I will warn you, somewhere in the middle before we want to delve into spoilers. What is Inner Space? That's a good question. It is a adventure kind of film. It's a bit of sci-fi. Well, it's not a bit of sci-fi. It's a lot of sci-fi, but it's about a test pilot played by Dennis Quaid called Tuck, who is in this program where they're experimenting shrinking someone down so small, kind of like Fantastic Voyage, if you've ever seen that classic movie from the 60s, small enough to go inside someone's body, like in their like bloodstream, that small, like, really tiny, naked to the human eye kind of thing. But something goes wrong on one of their tests, and he ends up in the body of a hypochondriac played by Martin Short called Jack. Early on, he establishes contact. He's able to sort of like tap into his ear and like install a camera in his eye so that he can like talk and see what's going on. And it becomes this wacky kind of adventure where he's like, there's a lot of reasons why like some part of the test was stolen, so they have to go on the hunt for it. And it's like he's got a time limit because he's only got so much air in the ship that he's inside his body. But it becomes this kind of wacky adventure where this guy who is useless and scared of everything has to help him and overcome his fears to do so. And then Meg Ryan plays the sort of the love interest, Tuck's love interest specifically, but she sort of ends up getting involved as well and all that. And there's a lot of hijinks and sort of fun chase sequences and all that kind of thing, and that's the movie. So, Connor, did you? I mean, obviously, I get to answer this question as well because it was the first viewing. But I'm going to phrase this the same way that I normally do. Connor, did you enjoy Inner Space?
Yeah, it was pretty fun.
I also enjoyed it. I also thought it was a good bit of fun. It definitely felt like a Joe Dante movie. He has a knack for having really fun characters and fun setups. So usually just the premise of his movies is typically just in one sentence. You're usually kind of sold on it. Like, oh right, okay, that sounds like a blast. Like right away, okay. You've got this hypochondriac running around, and he's like, there's a lot of funny sequences where he's like, before he knows what's going on, and he's feeling things in his eye, and he's feeling things in his ear, and everyone thinks he's crazy when he starts hearing the voice, and he's trying to avoid talking to it because he's in public in front of people. And so all these sort of hijink kind of setups, but they all feel pretty earned. Like none of them feel overly forced.
No, I mean, I didn't actually read what this was about before I started watching, so I was kind of just going along with the ride, and it was maybe a slight surprise when it got to, oh, that's what this movie is, because I didn't know.
I didn't know it was about him getting accidentally put in someone like a stranger. Like I didn't know that's what the plot
Right.
was. I knew it was about shrinking down, but that was the
Okay.
extent of my knowledge of it. That was it. I knew that. I knew Dennis Quaid was in it, and that was it. That was all I knew. Um, like I say, I like Joe Dante, so I was just I don't care what
Yeah.
it's about. I just wanted to see another Joe Dante movie. And I think this one sits up there with most of his stuff. It's definitely it's more sprawling. Like I typically think of a lot of his movies as being very uh, not quite bottle films, but certainly they typically are set in a neighborhood. Like they'll be in a small town, and it'll be
Hmm.
like all the characters in the town reacting to it. You know, Gremlins is like that. Small Soldiers is like that. The Burbs is even more condensed to one street. Like the whole thing's about this one like cul-de-sac of houses. Uh, this one's obviously a lot more sprawling because it's driving around in the city. There's car chases. It's all
Yeah,
over San
it's
Francisco.
in terms of the scope of it, it's quite big.
Yeah,
There's all sorts of people involved by the end.
I wasn't expecting. There's a character called the cowboy who's this weird, not quite arms dealer, but he like deals in
He's,
like
he's
he
yeah,
smuggles and sells
He-
things of
he's
a
he's
high
almost a bounty hunter, almost.
kind of. Well, it seemed like it was more about taking goods, like secret goods
Yeah,
to people,
yeah.
and then
But
obviously
yeah,
the
but he
case
has to
then.
acquire them as well. So
Oh, sure. I don't know if that was ever his job though. Like it seemed like because they already had the device they wanted him to
uh,
take away.
yeah.
He was basically just hired to come and like take it to whoever the buyer is, basically. That was basically what his job was.
Seems a lot of fuss just for a courier.
Well, it's highly illegal goods that they've stolen from somewhere, so I mean I think that's the purpose of it. Well, I think he's hired more for his negotiating on the other end. Like they know he'll make
Yeah.
a case for it. Like he's got a personality. He's known. He's maybe amongst all the other people who are maybe buying. He's a respected middleman
Yeah, that makes sense.
kind of idea. Also, there's a villain henchman who may or may not be a robot, which I was not expecting when the movie
Yeah.
started. I was not expecting robots, but no. The movie does get a little bit wacky. There's a couple of things in it, technology-wise, where okay, right, obviously the premise of the movie is that they've developed this shrinking down, and the whole idea is that they're supposed to put him into a bunny, and it's like, what can they do once they're inside the bunny? Can they, see through its eyes? Can they hear through its ears? Can they talk to it? Although how they'll know the bunny's able to hear him, I'm
Yeah.
not entirely
I
sure.
mean,
But
I assume they just measure the brain waves.
yeah, probably, yeah. But obviously it works. But there's some wackier things that he does once he's in there that are like, okay, right, we're proper in Fantasyland. I mean, not obviously the main premise is Fantasyland as well, but even more so, like,
More than you'd expect, because obviously you could take this idea and do it very grounded,
yeah,
and
yeah.
play. Oh, what if this was exactly how it would work? But this isn't that. It definitely, like I said, plays more fantasy style.
Yeah, it's just more of a, it's the point of it is to have fun with it, not completely. I mean, obviously it uses real things. Like there's a whole section where the stomach acid becomes like a plot device, and it's like, it plays with fun things like that. And if I remember Fantastic Voyage rightly, which is like a group of people in a ship get into a body, to like find something. I can't remember what they're finding. It's been a while since I watched it, but that plays it as a sort of almost like a Star Trekky adventure where you're like everything's new and wondrous because it's like, what is the bloodstream and what does the various parts of the body look like when you're that small inside it, and it's
Mm.
like it's like you're going through these clusters of things and all that. This movie has a little bit of that, but it's definitely
It's not the focus for sure.
yeah, because in Fantastic Voyage, everything's very difficult. It's like, oh, this is really dangerous to go to this part of the body. Whereas here, it gets around. There's a couple of dangerous moments, various things pop up, but it's mostly played like, oh, it's actually quite easy to get around and do
Yeah.
various things. Because ultimately, the point of the movie is that he can communicate. So they get to the point where he can communicate with them, and then that's where the real fun begins. That's when the movie's really set up. That's not to say that I didn't enjoy the setup stuff. I think the movie does a good job of establishing its main characters quite early on. I'll say this, like, I wonder if Dennis Quaid auditioned for Star Wars because I feel like he could have easily played Han Solo. Like, see that smile he's got in this? I was just seeing like the cynical Harrison Ford
Yeah.
smile.
No, I can see it.
I'm like, man, if Harrison, like, for whatever reason pulled out, Dennis Quaid would have been a adequate
Solid
substitute.
replacement, yeah.
Yeah. And obviously Dennis Quaid's not really seen in the high caliber that Harrison Ford is, and he's not been in as much big stuff, but I wonder if that's maybe why he never got Star Wars, so the career never quite took off. I mean, obviously he's in a lot of stuff. He's a proper working actor.
Well, that's all it takes sometimes, isn't it? One thing for people to see you in.
Yeah, yeah, and obviously Ford then went on to Indiana Jones, he did Blade Runner, he did all these,
Yeah.
Yeah, because even though Ford, I mean, arguably, other than sequels to his old stuff, he's not necessarily done a lot of noteworthy things in the last, like, 10, 15 years. But it doesn't really matter, because you still remember him from all those movies.
That's it, he's a household name, regardless.
Yeah. So I think he's good. I think Meg Ryan's fine, like, no complaints. Yeah. She's upbeat and whatnot. Martin Short obviously has the most sort of slapsticky comedy to do, because he's the one who is the hypochondriac. He's also the one who's hearing him and, like, reacting to it, and I mean, I think it does a good job of giving both of them an arc, which is kind of this neat thing with together. So that, like, obviously his arc is that he's not a hypochondriac, but then maybe he learns to be a bit stronger, a bit more confident. And Dennis Quaid's character at the start, he's this drunk who kind of just throws everything away and takes everything for granted. And he's kind of an asshole. But to the movie's credit, like, even though he's an asshole, you don't completely hate him.
It's kind of, I mean, you kind of nailed it with the Han Solo thing there. Yeah. He's kind of likable still, even though he's a bit of a dick.
Yeah.
And but yeah, the point is obviously they learn from each other to become better people.
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of the point of the movie. But yeah, you've got quite a lot of villains, actually. There's more villains than I was expecting, but it works well enough. Like, I don't think the villains themselves are ever meant to be, like, they all work in their own way for what they're supposed to be, and there's some fun stuff with them towards the end as well. I will say there's some good stunt work in this. I thought there was a really fun car chase where there's, like, people hanging off the back of a truck.
It's pretty good. Yeah,
there was some stuff like that was pretty fun.
I thought the effects in general were really solid.
Oh yeah, all the stuff in the body when he's, like, flying around in there. Yeah,
that all looked pretty good.
Yeah, it was inventive, like, because obviously it's like, okay, how do we make this, like, oh, okay, so in theory this is what a bloodstream would look like when you're that small, but, like,
yeah,
it does make me wonder how they pulled off a lot of that stuff. Like, at what point was it, like, was it all miniatures and stuff, and they were actually firing stuff at this little miniature ship? Obviously some optical effects. Like, how did they capture various parts of it? 'Cause obviously this is pre-CG.
Right, that's it. It looks impressive for what it is, and you are wondering, how did they do this? How did they do that?
Yeah, I will say that's the one downside to having, like, because CG can be very good. Like, I'm not someone who's completely against CG. I think sometimes it's overused. Sometimes there should be more practicals for various things. But one of the things that we have lost, even with fantastic CG, is I never sit there and go, I wonder how they did that.
Yeah, exactly.
I know how they did all of it.
Right.
I mean, I can't do it myself, but I understand the process.
You understand the theory of it, yeah. Whereas here, I don't even know where they began for some of this stuff.
Yeah, I imagine it was quite wacky. You hear a lot of these old stories about how they achieved some things, like, it's just so simple. Whenever you're looking at a zombie movie, it's like, oh, how did you get that kidney to burst that way? It's like, oh, well, that was actually this thing in it.
Even in this, something as simple as just the bloodstream. Like, obviously, you go, okay, so it's dyed running water or something a bit thicker. But then there's all the blood cells. It's like, right, so what are all they? Yeah,
there's these blobs kind of coming past. It's like, okay, how did they do that? And it makes you wonder, how did they film that? It's genuinely curious. I'd like to watch a making of doc and see how they did those things. It's fun stuff. So that makes it a lot of fun, and it I will say even though it's 2 hours long, I think the pacing is actually very good. I never feel like it's slowed down.
No, it's just constantly going, isn't it?
Because it never, like, it sets up the main characters, it gets them in place, and then obviously these criminals try to steal the technology, and that's what leads to the scientists going on the run, and eventually it going into the Martin Short's character Jack, and from there it's like sort of discovering that, and then from there it's like, okay, now we have a mission, and then it's like, oh, we have a ticking time bomb because you're going to die if we don't get you out in a certain time, and it keeps adding on, it keeps developing what the story is, and it keeps making turning it into something else.
I think you mentioned how there's a lot of villains. I think that helps because it's constantly bouncing from something to something else. There's always something new that it's up against.
Yeah. So there's a lot of chasing going on, and then once it brings in Meg Ryan's character, because actually after her introduction, you don't see her for a good 40 minutes or something like that. Like, it sets up the rest of the plot, and then it brings her back into it, and it's kind of like she then adds this new dynamic because she is like, okay, now there's another person. It's not just these two anymore. And how does that affect things? How, you know, for a while she doesn't know what's going on, and she gets this like weird story to like kind of explain why he's doing what he's doing because she doesn't know this guy. And then when she does find out, it's like, okay, right, well, how does this like? It plays with it. Like it feels like it's when they had the idea, like, okay, this guy's like shrunk and he's in the body. And he's talking to them, and there's even some jokes about possession, because that's
Cracked me up.
that's the first thing he thinks it is. He thinks he's been possessed by a demon.
Yeah, he just shouts out in the doctor's office that he's possessed.
Yeah, that was a really funny moment.
So good.
But like he like there's a couple of jokes about that, but like how so it's like they had this idea, and they you can almost I can imagine them sitting writing the script and being like, well, what if this and what if this, and they kept like it's just one of these things where you can feel it was an idea factor. It's like, okay, what if this happened? What if this happened? What if this happened? And obviously they didn't use everything, but it felt like they explored so many ideas. Like there's not a single setup. Like each like not each scene, but each like sort of sequence of scenes in the movie, like each chunk. It feels like every single one came from a and then we could do this with it, and then we could do this with it.
It does. And it's funny because obviously it feels like each one of those is probably enough for any movie. Like you could do one movie against like just one of those ideas and have probably a 2-hour movie on that. But instead they're like, no, let's do everything, and it kind of rockets through some of them like really quickly, which is why it always feels like it's moving so quickly.
Yeah, and it never slows down and stops like it's ran out of ideas or it's not been fun anymore. And I think that's why it is better that it's a slightly more light-hearted. It's a more fun adventure approach, because I think if you did do it grounded, if you did like a grounded, and I wouldn't mind seeing a grounded version of someone shrinks down and goes into a body, but I think that's where you would it would purely focus on one or two ideas and it would stick with them, because it has to do it slowly, it has to do it methodically, it has to do what's the danger of this, and it goes through these things. Whereas this will just throw out a cool idea where it's like, we can do this now, or we can do that now, and it ever keeps evolving, and because of that, it's really fun. So it's really good. I want to point out Dick Miller, who's an actor who's in this. He's the cab driver early on. So it's a small role. You're probably like, why am I mentioning this guy? Because he's in every Joe Dante movie. Sometimes he has a small role, sometimes he has a big role. But I smelled when I seen him, because I was like, okay, where's Dick Miller going to pop up? Because he's always in these.
Fair enough.
So yeah, thumbs up for that. So I guess we'll go into some spoilers then, if I think we're at that point. So spoilers from this point on for Innerspace. So I think obviously the goofiest thing that the movie does is probably the face changing technology.
Yeah, definitely.
Because that's once the cowboy's introduced, and Meg Ryan's character Lydia, like she's a reporter, and she's sort of like investigating this stuff, and it kind of links up with what's going on. So once Jack, obviously with Tuck's advice, finds her and tries to get her help, they go after the cowboy. They meet him. They end up knocking him out, or he ends up knocking him out, thinking something's up, thinking he's putting the moves on Lydia when he's not. Like she's in the other room, but it leads to this thing where Tuck all of a sudden inside, because there's a lot of obviously going inside the cockpit. It's almost like the old school equivalent of like Iron Man, like in the helmet cam. But in here it's like him in the ship inside the body. He's like, all right, I've got an idea. I'm going to do something. And he scans his face, and I'm like, what's he doing? Why is he scanning the guy's face?
Yeah.
And he's like, okay, I think I can rearrange your like face. And I'm like, wait, what? Okay, we just jumped into lunacy, right? This is not even.
Yeah, it's such a big jump from where it was before.
It's not to say that the rest of it's grounded, of course, but it's just like all of a sudden it's like, okay, this is just magic now. Like
it is, and he's even like, right, how are you going to do that? And he's like, it's complicated, just go with it. And it's like, don't ask questions. Just,
it almost feels
enjoy
like
the ride.
It feels like the director just saying, let's just go with it. Let's just have fun. Just
it does.
Go with it. It's like later on when he gets transferred to Lydia through a kiss, and then she kisses him again to send him back, and she does that just like I buy the first time that he just happened to be in the right place to be like go through that through the saliva, but the second time when she goes, oh, it was when you kissed me, I'll kiss you again, and I was like, what? So he just happens to be in the right place again. It felt a little bit convenient, I guess.
No, I know what you mean.
But no, it's a fun arc, because obviously Jack especially, like him getting over his thing, because the end of the movie it actually ends on this, like the villains who have been shrunk down to half size, which all of that stuff was hilarious, honestly. So some of the stuff in the car, like you could tell that the puppet hands were a bit weird, but like see when it was them in the phone booth and they were standing on top of each other.
Yeah.
That was cracking me up because it was this weird thing where they're not dwarfs. They are still regular sort of proportions, but they've been shrunk down to half size.
Yeah.
And it's a really fun effect.
It was. I assume they just used some forced perspective for this stuff.
At
least in the car, at the very least.
Actually, I think in the car it was like a mixture because I think
it was a mixture. The hands were definitely...
obviously, but I mean, I think some of it was filmed separately, and then it was like screened behind it. Like,
you think?
Yeah, like they filmed them. I mean, unless they had a really like wonky, specially built car that was long, so they could.
Well, yeah, because I know that's what they did for like Lord of the Rings and stuff.
Yeah. That wasn't as extreme as this though. Whereas this, because I mean, they were never in a car in Lord of the Rings, obviously.
No, but I'm thinking of the start of the first one where Gandalf's there and they're in the horse and cart. I know that was like forced perspective. It was like 20 feet apart that they were sat.
Oh yeah. I mean, I know you can do it that way, but here it felt like because later on when they're in the phone booth, I feel like again there's like probably a split screen effect there because there's a guy standing there to show you the scale, but he's like quite far away, and you can tell that they probably, especially since the phone booth itself is obviously specially built so that they can be standing on top of each other.
It made me laugh that there was a someone there for scale when there's a phone booth. It's like that's we know what that's supposed to be.
Well, honestly, because you already see him in the phone booth, you already get it, and then you see him in the wide shot. I think that was more like him. It was meant to just be like a sort of punchline where he's looking in, being like, "What the hell? Like, these weird small people. What's going on?" But it also helps for scale because you get that. But no, so the movie ends with this kind of almost cliffhanger-esque thing where Tuck gets out, they save his life, he gets out because obviously what they're hunting the whole movie is this little chip thing. They need this chip to re-enlarge him, and he gets out and everyone kind of has their happy ending, and it's kind of this bittersweet thing for Jack, who kind of got feelings for Lydia, but it was more about like building his own confidence and all that. So the end of the movie is okay, so the cowboy and the shrunken villains who are in the suitcase, he's the limo driver and he's like taking over the limo, and it's like, oh wait, no, they're after them. So the end of the movie, like the actual climax of the movie, and I think this was smart and it was the right choice, is the climax of the movie is actually Jack saying, you know what, no, I'm not going to go on a date with that girl from work, Wendy, who is terrible to me and is bad for me. I have more self-respect than that. No, I do not need my doctor anymore, who I go to every day, seemingly, for advice on the worst things possible. And no, I am not coming to work on Monday. I don't really think the boss deserved to be told off, but yeah, that's fine.
The boss seemed to treat him fine.
Yeah, you see, the boss was actually pretty understanding of all his weird antics, to be honest.
And then when this started going down, he was like, "You know what? Go home. Start your vacation early. You can earn that."
Yeah, because it felt like the boss was going to go down that like asshole boss path, but once they got him in the office to talk to him, he was like, "Look, you've got a very promising career here. Let's not throw it all away." Like he was being very understanding. It was.
I mean, I get that obviously he wants to be like, no, I can do better than working in a store.
Oh yeah.
At this age. I get that's the point, but it did feel unfair to the boss because he seemed like a nice enough guy.
Yeah, not that he told off the doctor. It was just a case of I don't need, I quit. Yeah. But he says that, and then he jumps off into Tuck's red car, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm going to be a hero." Jack to the rescue, and it's him driving off, and the credits start playing, and it's kind of like because that's the arc of the movie. Is he like? Because first of all, at this point we're 2 hours in, we've seen the villains keep popping back up again. And we didn't really need to have another little adventure at the end. Like, I don't really think that was the point of it. The point of it was just to show that no, he's developed enough now that he has that confidence. He can do this. Right, now.
Exactly. And it's just showing us that, hey, look, he's a different person now that he was at the start.
Yeah, I don't need to see him beat the bad guys. Like, I am convinced that he will catch up with the car and they'll deal with it.
Yeah, you just assume, that'll happen. It's fine.
Yeah.
And the villains will probably keep on coming again and again because that's just what's going to happen.
Very, very probably. Obviously, Robot Man. Like at first, I thought he just had a robot hand.
Yeah, see, that's why I was.
It kept developing because when he first showed up in the mall, right, and he comes in and right away, he's a villain. He's got the sunglasses on. He's very stoic. It's all very thing. And he holds up his hand like that with his finger, and he shoots something. And at first I thought, oh, he's just got a fancy device that he can shoot, inside the glove, right?
That's what I thought at first too.
That was first thing. And then when he's in the car, you see him like, unscrew his hand, and he's got like and I'm like,
attachments.
He's got like a robotic arm. He's got like a cyborg arm, and that's why he's got things. And then, funnily enough, the reason why I'm convinced he's other than the fact that he's completely stoked the entire time, like he never shows any emotion other than like sort of creepily smiling that he gets to do what he does. Other than that, obviously, whereas like, okay, he doesn't really seem to be acting very human-like. Weirdly, it was a joke that told me he's probably a robot. It was at one point the female villain, who's Margaret. She's like the sciencey one for the villains, because you got the rich guy, you got her, and then you got the robot man, and then arguably the cowboy is also kind of a villain. There's a weird moment with her where, well, first of all, actually, it's already funny because the main boss guy, Scrimshaw, we see him. He's got this elaborate desk, all this pink lighting. He's got this big white dog like on the desk.
It's almost like a parallel to Bond villains, with the cat.
Right, it's this elaborate, sleazy rich 80s guy, like, villain get up.
Yeah.
But then when it goes to a wide shot, you can see that he's actually in the corner of an abandoned building. Or, like, at least this floor is completely abandoned, there's nothing in it. And it's just him in the corner with his fancy lighting and his fancy desk. And I'm like, that is 80s as hell. Like, 80s movies as hell, specifically. But he's on the phone to Margaret, and Margaret's like, oh, I can't right now, I'm busy. And it's a close-up of her, and she's eating like a cherry all kind of seductively. It's like, all right, she's got a gentleman over, she's doing sexy things. But then when she hangs up the phone, it's Robot Man, and he attaches a vibrator attachment to his arm. And I'm like, oh, I guess he is a robot, because if he was a guy otherwise, then by the attachment, just
for fun, spice things up.
Sure, but
I don't know.
I took that as okay, I guess he is a robot then. He's maybe not got the parts to do it the old-fashioned way.
Could well be.
I like though that she gets all dressed up and has like a glass of wine and like eats cherries and stuff.
Well, that's the stuff that makes me go, maybe he's not a robot. I mean, I don't know. Like I say, the way she acts there is like maybe because she's putting like effort in.
Yeah, it's like she's having a romantic night, but that's why I think it's even funnier. She has a romantic night just to use her vibrator.
Yeah.
It's kind of a sad villain in a lot of ways, like all this effort.
It is when you say it like that, isn't it?
But then again, maybe she just doesn't like people. She's like, no, robot with a vibrator. That's all I need. That's fulfilling for her. That's all she needs.
I'm sure it is.
So no. But speaking of Robot Man, some of my favourite villain antics is when they actually miniaturize him and send him into the body, and we get the fight inside where he's like in a sort of astronaut-like suit.
Yeah.
And he's trying to break the oxygen canisters and stuff on the ship. He's trying to kill him, and that's when we get to the stomach acid stuff.
Right, and that was the other reason that I didn't think he was a robot, because when the stomach acid gets him, it leaves an extra skeleton.
That's right. You're right. It does have a skeleton.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know.
And also that made me laugh, because the whole thing earlier on that Tuck was like, hey, you want to get me this thing because you don't want me dead in here, because then you'll have a skeleton floating around your body forever.
Oh, I think that was intentional. I think that was an intentional setup for that. Yeah.
But by this point, he just doesn't care.
Yeah. Well, as he says, he's digested it, so theoretically that will come out.
In theory, yes.
Yeah. You just, that was actually one of my favourite lines. You just digested the bad guy. It's a pretty good line. Good line. Obviously, the music's very 80s. It's a very 80s movie score. It's kind of like that sort of relaxing synth, kind of like coming into it and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's very much what I expect from an 80s adventure movie.
Which I love, by the way.
I don't mean that as a bad thing. Yeah. I just mean it's kind of by the numbers in that sense, but that's what you want in that movie.
Yeah, but I never get any of that now from new movies, so it's special whenever I do go back.
Right.
Because, it's very... As life goes on, it's getting rarer and rarer that I get to watch a movie from the 80s for the first time, so it's nice to get the experience fresh once again. So I would say we had the face change and stuff. There's all, he's trying to pretend to be the cowboy, which I like. The hair stayed the same. I was going to yell bullshit if his hair turned into the same as the cowboys.
Yeah, I liked what they did with the voices, because I'm pretty sure at first when it's just him and Lydia, it's it's his, it's just his
Oh,
voice,
it's
and then
his
he
voice,
does an
yeah.
impression.
Yeah, he does an impression later with the bad guys, yeah, because the bad guys have met him before, so
Well,
he has
see,
to.
that's what I was thinking. I think when it's the with the bad guys, I think it's the guy who plays the cowboy doing an impression, doing like an almost impression of his own voice.
Oh yeah. Oh no, I agree with that. I just meant
Yeah.
in story.
Right, in story,
Yeah,
it's impression. Yeah.
Jack's doing an impression of
Yeah.
the cowboy, but yeah, obviously it's the actor who plays the cowboy doing the voice, but he's doing like a weird version of it to sound
Yeah,
like it's
he's
kind
doing
of
like
off.
if Jack did an impression of his voice.
Yeah, which is to be fair, I think even the regular voice that he was doing is not his real accent. I'm pretty sure that actor's doesn't sound like that.
Ah, fair enough.
In fact, looking at the image, I think he's on one of the Star Trek. I think he's on
Yeah,
Voyager.
yeah, that sounds about right.
I think yeah. He's usually bald. He's probably bald in this. He's probably just had a wig on.
Probably. It's easy to do, isn't it?
Yeah. But yeah, so he had all that going. So, but no, this is a really fun movie. Like I say, Ticking Time Bomb. Once, because I think that's the big thing for me is like, it's really fun when it gets to him, and and obviously, there's all that fun stuff where he's discovering what's going on. And there's that confusion, but then when you introduce the oh no, he's going to die by like 9 o'clock tomorrow if we don't get him out.
Yeah.
And it seems hopeless. It seems like the lab guys aren't going to help him. As far as they're concerned, all they need is the ship to come out okay, and they can get that whenever.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. They were like, yeah, it's whatever. We'll
Yeah.
do whatever we have to do.
That said, though, they can still get him out, which made me think like, well, can you not get him out and just like poke a hole in the thing to let him breathe until you can?
I guess that's the same problem. The whole point of he couldn't just go into the lung and open it was because of the pressure. I guess if you bring him
sure.
out and try and poke him with anything
Okay,
small,
that's
like
fair.
just to get small enough.
That's fair. That's fair. Honestly, they've only got a matter of hours. I'm thinking if they had time, they could rig some sort of way of giving him
Yeah.
new air by like transferring it down to him. But like,
Yeah.
I agree that takes time.
I think they were like, hey, as long as we can do this again and they can't do it, who cares if he's dead?
Yeah, and obviously Tuck takes him back to his place, and he's like, "Okay, get drunk. I need booze." So he literally holds out this little arm, and I like that they built this thing into the ship where he can hold out a flask and catch some of the booze coming down his system.
I like to think he put that in as a requirement when he signed up.
Yeah, but you thought it was going on a bunny. What do you think?
But they could still feed him stuff.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, I think that's it. It's like you want to be sure that they can give him a drink if he wants something. Not even necessarily alcohol. It could be water. But obviously,
Sure.
why take something in if you can just take in an empty thing and go, right, here you go.
Here's the thing, though. He's that small. The blood is like these big molecules. Wouldn't the alcohol also be these big molecules?
Yes. That's why you don't need very much of it.
No, what I'm saying, it shouldn't even fit in the flask.
No,
It should be these big blobs that are like the size of his head.
It's still well, no, because the blood, you're thinking of the actual the blood cells, whereas so they're things in the liquid almost that make it up. Whereas there's the blood cells and then there's the actual the plasma.
Okay.
So the alcohol would just be the liquid, so it wouldn't matter. It would go in 'cause it's a liquid.
Okay, right. So you're saying it wouldn't be so like even at that size, it would still
Yeah,
be a
he's
liquid.
microscopic, but he's not at like the atomic level, is he?
Okay, just keeping it straight, just making sure this isn't bullshit. Not that I should really be picking this apart anyway. It doesn't matter, but bringing up.
I like how you're more concerned with that than the face changing.
Joe, it's just because I can argue about this, whereas with the face changing, it's just obviously it's just bullshit.
Yeah.
It's just magic. They did it and that's it. And there's all that stuff with Glick Club. That's when they run into Wendy, of course, who's the girl from Jack's work, who seems to grow an interest in him because he's acting different and he seems more exciting. And I almost thought they were going to develop this thing where I almost seen this weird thing happening like halfway through. I was expecting like maybe they might switch girls, where I thought Lydia might grow fond of Jack more than Tuck, but then we'd have like Wendy would kind of appeal to Tuck's sensibilities, and that would kind of happen. Turns out the old doctor's actually got a chance with Wendy.
Yeah, well, I mean, that was what she was kind of saying in the bar. She was like, "Oh, the club." She was like, "I've slept with everyone at work except."
Oh, That line cracked me up. Yeah, it was. I've slept with everyone at work except you, and yet you're the only one I'm somewhat attracted to.
Yeah,
That was that line. And it's just that look in his face. It's like, oh yeah, that makes me feel great. Thanks.
yeah.
Very, very witty moments, witty dialogue, all that kind of thing throughout it. Like I was kind of smiling and chuckling along like a lot of the time.
Yeah, that's it. It's very light, easy watch, and then just here have jokes every 2 minutes.
Yeah, characters are likable. You're happy they all made it out, and you know they've grown at the end. Like and I think that's Joe Dante's big strength. I think all of his movies that I like the characters. On top of the fun premise, he's kind of the perfect, at least in terms of the 80s stuff. Like he's the perfect kind of fun idea, solid characters, good like popcorn movie feels like an insult, but like it's very much that he's not making.
It is. It's nothing that you're gonna sit there and critique and find the deeper meaning in, is it? It's like, here, have some fun.
Yeah, but the characters have arcs, they have growth, so the script's quite tight in that sense. Like, it serves its purpose as a story. Which is, I feel like a lot of directors or writers or whatever, like, wouldn't find that in this. They would hear the concept and go, let's do all these wacky things, but they'd maybe forget to actually put in the character progression and the growth.
Yeah, it would be easily done.
Yeah, so, no, I highly respect it for that. Or just Joe Dante in general. As for where this ranks for me with these other movies, it's hard to say. I wouldn't put it at the top. Definitely, Explorers has the nostalgia thing, so that's always number one. I think The Burbs is probably next, but Innerspace could fight. No, I'd probably put Gremlins still. But still, the point I'm making here is he's got such a solid library of films that I really like that.
It's not an insult to say it's not the top.
No, it's not. I'll have to rewatch Small Soldiers and see where that fits in.
I think that's the only one I've seen. Off the top of my head.
Well, expect some more Joe Dante episodes in the future.
Yeah, we'll get there.
But no. So, and obviously there's The Howling. Howling's probably my least favourite, and I like The Howling, but it's definitely not. Joe Dante directed it, but it's not really a Joe Dante movie, if that makes sense. It doesn't feel like one of his, all these films.
Yeah.
It's more of a proper werewolf horror movie. There's some humour, don't get me wrong, it's not completely straight, but it doesn't feel
it's not what you expect from him.
Yeah. Whereas every other movie of his I've watched, like, I could have watched as a kid, and you could show your kids these movies. I mean, that one vibrator joke aside, which, again, the kid wouldn't understand what was happening.
Right, that's it.
Yeah.
It's very much... this almost is a kid's movie, in some regards.
Yeah, it's just obviously it's well written enough that it can appeal to everyone, and it's got...
I think the best kids movies do. Like the best kids, they're more, instead of calling them kids movies, you call them family movies at that point, I think, because they have something for everyone. Yeah,
there's a level of fairness to that. I think the vibrator thing, just like, there was nothing like that in the rest of the movie, so when it popped up, I started laughing because I wasn't expecting like a joke that,
No, but then we're talking about, Wendy sleeping with the whole shop.
That came later.
That come later, okay. But my point is, I'm just saying, there's other ones in there like that.
Oh yeah, there's a few.
Kids, you just overlook.
But by the time we get to the second half of the movie and Tuck's like pulling, like, hey, stop looking at her ass, like, kind of moments.
Yeah.
Like, there's more of that in the second half, but the first half didn't have a lot of it. So when it got to the vibrator joke, which was about halfway through, something like that, it kind of like took me off guard because I wasn't expecting a joke to, like, it's kind of like I won't spoil what it is, but in the recent Spider-Man, there was a really dark joke halfway through, and that was like twice as funny because I was never expecting a joke that dark to pop up.
Right,
in that
it's because
movie.
it's set up as to what the tone is already. Like in here, it go right. This is the tone, and then it goes that step further with something else, so it's funnier because of it.
Yeah, so no, I would highly recommend this. I think this is a great fun movie to watch when you're in the mood for something that's a bit lighter. And I will happily watch this again. I feel it has rewatch value written all over it.
Yeah, definitely.
Much like all of Dante's movies, which again I can't praise enough. I think most of my favorite directors tend to be, more auteur-esque. I'm talking about people with real artistic kind of visions and doing pretentious things with a camera and all. Like, and I say that lovingly, but like, Whereas, like, there's few directors where I just love because I love the fun stuff they make. But Joe Dante kind of sticks out. Joe Dante and Matthew Vaughn are kind of the two that spring to my mind, where I just love what they do purely on a entertainment level, where it's really solid, the characters have growth, but it is just about having a fun story.
Well, that's it. I think it's because they're not trying to do something, like this big, deep, introspective thing. They're like, no, we're going to have fun, and we're going to do a really good job at having fun.
Oh yeah, that's kind of my point though, is that I think a lot of directors and a lot of studio stuff these days especially, when they say, oh, let's make something fun, to them that means let's make something that's brain dead and ignores the basic rules of filmmaking, and you end up with Transformers.
It says it all, doesn't it, that we went to the same one?
Yeah. Or even just what other stuff this year that bombed were all, like, I've never seen it, but Baywatch, they were complaining, oh, Baywatch, bad reviews are killing them. No, it's bad reviews are just letting people know what to avoid. Oh, Mummy's another one, yeah. Devoid of, a good script. Fun stuff where, I mean, I would argue this is leave your brain at the door if that sentence wasn't so tainted with all these actual shit films that you legitimately have to be brain dead to enjoy.
Yeah.
So
I think the Mummy was a good example there, because obviously we've seen that done before and be fun.
Yeah, the 99 one is exactly the fun version of that story, yeah.
Right, so that's kind of like, yeah, so it can be done, it's just people have, like I say, kind of forgotten that that's okay.
Yeah, and that's not to say they can do a darker version, they can just do it properly.
Not everything has to be that, yeah.
Yeah, obviously, yeah. But yeah, that's kind of where I land on this. Is you can have something that's silly and fun, but still have a good script with characters who actually have proper stories. That's, I mentioned Matthew Vaughn. That's one of the things that really impressed me when I first saw Kick-Ass, is that that this could easily, and I know how easily it could be complete shit because I've seen Kick-Ass 2 that wasn't by Matthew Vaughn, but like that movie had so much heart. Like, you really cared about the characters.
I mean, you could go one step further with Kick-Ass and go, it could be complete shit, because you could just see the original comic and go, and you can see,
sure.
Do you know what I mean? Like, you can see, that's where it takes itself too seriously and it doesn't have fun.
Yeah. Whereas, again, Vaughn has fun, he creates characters that you like, and in the case of Kick-Ass specifically, he gave that a lot of heart. Like, there's a point where I'm like, I'm really caring that a character died in that movie, and it's like, I didn't expect to feel this way. But you can do that in a movie that is fun and kind of stupid, and
right,
you can do that. And that's why when people try and defend the Transformers, they try and defend, I don't know, whatever other brainless shit that's been out in the last few years. It's like, oh, this is leave your brain at the door stuff. Like, well, no, you can have fun and still actually enjoy good writing as you're doing it.
Yeah, it can still be competently made and, leave your brain at the door.
Yeah, or in the case of some of these guys, beyond competent, like, it can be excellently made, but be what it is. Like, you can still make an excellent dumb movie. Like, that's entirely possible.
It is, and I think people need to remember that.
They do. This turned into a bit of a conversation about the state of shite films. It's just because I feel like these excuses get thrown around, and it annoys me because, well, no, because you can have better. Don't accept this shit. And
I think that's it. I think we kind of forget, because how often do you actually sit down and watch a movie like this now?
For new films, not a lot. Like, typically, if I'm watching something like this, it is something from, the 80s, the 70s, whatever.
So when you, even now, when you go back and you go, right, I'll watch something from then, and you go, oh yeah, you can do this fun. You forget, because there is so much of the new stuff coming out.
Yeah. Even in the 90s, they had some stuff, but certainly once you get to the 2000s, it starts to.
Yeah.
This type of film starts to shift, and you don't really get a lot of them anymore. Not to say there's none, but not a whole lot.
Definitely this decade, I think it's hard to find more than a handful.
Yeah, there's definitely, like, in terms of like family movies, like, taking away like good animated stuff, right? I feel like family movies is something that's kind of dwindled in quality. I mean, I can't think of it off the top of my head.
No, that's it. I'm struggling to think of any this. I mean,
And we're not counting like superhero movies in here because that's
Right, and it's
different.
the sort of thing that if it was done well and had been good, Pirates of the new Pirates of the Caribbean could have been like in that sort of void.
Oh yeah, could have been. Yeah.
But from everything I heard, it kind of just wasn't there.
I never even liked the first one, so clearly I wasn't going to
Right.
bother. But yeah, so I just so yeah, tangent there at the end, but relevant and reasonable
Ish.
conversation. I would have thought. So I guess we'll whip back round to anything else you want to bring up from Innerspace. Any scenes that stuck out as
No, like I say, it was when he was in the doctor's office and yelling about possession, and that was cracking me up.
oh yeah, I also liked how the doctor. Well, first of all, he says, "Oh, we can rule out demonic possession. You'll be glad to know." I'm like, how can you know that? Seriously, what test did you do that ruled that out? I want to know.
Well, no, but I really like his answer to that because he was like, "How do you know that?" He's like, "Well, demons talk through you, not to you." And I was like, "Solid, I'll accept it."
Yeah, and then there's another bit where he's like, because at one point, Tuck inside is going, oh God," because like something's happening, and he's like, "Oh, now he's talking about God." Right? And then he's like, "Oh, you're having some sort of religious hysteria." He's like, "Oh, what's the the treatment for that?" He's like, "Well, back in the old days, it was being burned at the stake. I'm not quite so sure what the modern practice is." I thought that was a really good line.
It was. The doctor was very like he knows what this guy's like. Obviously, he's a reg. We'd set that up. He's there all the time.
Well, actually, the exact line when we established that is like, your regular visits are the cornerstone of my medical practice.
Yeah, exactly. I feel bad for the doctor at the end. He's going to go out of business.
Yeah. But he's got a new young girlfriend, seemingly. So he's
Yeah, that's true.
some things are on the up and up. We didn't even mention when Tuck gets transferred into Lydia, he ends up seeing that she's pregnant. Like he's going around and he sees like the very early stage sort of unborn child.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh, that's kind of nice
Yeah, I
little
think
moment.
it was really interesting. They never touched on it again, really, either.
Yeah, I mean, there's one moment when he comes out where he says, "You never told me," or "How come you never told me?" And that's it. That's all you get.
Yeah.
We don't need any more of it. We don't need anything else. It's just. Also, I like that he just assumed it was his, like, because it did say it was 2 months later. Theoretically, this was still in the realm of possibility. This could have been someone else's kid.
Yeah.
So,
But he's that's the sort of man he is. A very confident man.
he is a very confident man. But no, it was actually kind of a oddly sweet moment. Like I wasn't expecting.
It was because it gave him this moment of realization, didn't it?
Yeah. Like maybe like if she already knew about it, like when she broke up with him at the start of the movie, it's like she was looking for him to be more mature, and part of the reason why she maybe broke away is because he's still this drunk fool who, like, gets into these fights and whatever.
Yeah.
So no, so that was a really sweet moment. But no, Innerspace. I guess we should rate it.
Yeah.
What are you thinking?
I think a solid 8. Yeah, a lot of fun, great movie, but that's solid.
I think I will echo that 8. I think I will. And honestly, I think Joe Dante is a director who swims in solid 8s.
Nothing wrong with that.
Absolutely nothing wrong with that. I will take a director who can consistently give me a really good 8 or an 8.5 over someone who gave me a 10 once. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'll still cherish that 10, but it's like a 10 and then nothing but 6s and 7s after that. It's like,
Yeah.
I'm not excited for that director's movies anymore, whereas Dante's never let me down.
Oh, it's good stuff.
Never let me down. I mean, maybe his newer films, well, I don't know, but because he also did that, was it Burying the Ex? Was that? I think that was his.
I don't remember.
I think that was his. He done a couple of recent movies. I need to seek them out and see if they're any good. But I'm a little bit worried because, like, once you take him out of the 80s and 90s, does that whimsy kind of quality?
Yeah, does he
away?
feel like he's had to adapt with the times?
Yeah, like I think the big example for me for that is Spielberg, where I almost like modern Spielberg doesn't excite. I mean, I'll check some of his stuff out and some of it, it'll be good, but
It's not what it used to be.
ever since like the early 90s, I feel like he's not really been the same guy he was before, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, but it just means like there's like a Spielberg that I like, and that is mid 70s to mid 90s, and then there's a Spielberg that's okay, but often especially recently. Like he's done a good job recently of making a lot of movies that I'm not interested
Well,
in.
I don't even think you can say there's bad Spielbergs. I think they're still mostly well-made movies at the very least. They're just not interesting to you.
To a point, I think I would argue that the pacing in Lincoln was absolutely torture. But
All right, that's fair.
um,
But there's a lot of movies there that are clearly that they're not
oh yeah,
bad. They're not the movies that you want from him.
yeah. Like, I've never seen Bridge of Spies. I'm sure it's a fine movie, but
That's it. It's fine. It's
yeah,
nothing exceptional. It's fine.
you know, Crystal Skull was what it was. You know,
Yeah.
nothing is to be said about that. That one he did with Jackson, the animated one, Tintin.
Yeah.
I didn't like that.
Yeah. BFG was kind of like meant to be that as well. Like where, yeah, it's all right, but
Yeah, I never saw that. Like, I never appealed to me. So, and after Lincoln, I don't know if Lincoln may actually came after this. I can't remember, but certainly after I saw Lincoln, like the thought of sitting through War Horse was like, nah, I'm good. I'm good. So, and obviously, I know everyone watching this, if they haven't turned it off because we're off topic, they're like, but Saving Private Ryan, that was after that period you're speaking about. It's like, yeah, it was. And Saving Private Ryan, again, is a fine movie, bit too sentimental for my tastes.
yeah.
Bit too sentimental. When I've tried to rewatch it, I've basically never finished it again. It was fine the first time. It had some good moments, had some nice things to do and say.
I'm just because I'm not that big on war movies as a whole.
Yeah,
And I'm
not
like,
me.
yeah, I mean, it's fine. It's good enough for what it is, but I've no interest to ever watch it again.
Aye. But there you go. So that's Innerspace. Well, some tangents there towards the end. But thank you very much for watching. Let us know what you thought of the movie in the comments below. If you've seen it, like and subscribe, all that stuff. Get us on Twitter at mail_fuzz for channel updates. If you want to support the channel and everything we do here, and possibly get more of these influxes and whatnot, certainly get them early. That's one of the perks. You can head over to patreon.com/mailfuzztv and check all that stuff out. But otherwise, guys, that is us. So thank you very much once again for watching. Keep watching movies, and we'll see you next time.